Back up to St. George.
Yeah, honestly, every time I go to St. George, I kick myself for not buying a place there 12 years ago.
I know.
I beat myself up. I should have bought a place there.
There's so much development here now. It's amazing.
know.
It just keeps changing. I was just talking with someone here. We're at the campsite, and I was just talking with someone about they're putting in a water park. They're building all these condos all over the place, and fortunately, it's being done where the outdoor part is still really nice.
Yeah.
And I hope it doesn't get too trafficy, but
it's more expensive there now than it is in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
It used to be a really cheap place, and so I do kick myself, and I am a little envious that you're up there. I wish I was with you.
No, I love it.
But anyway, so it's a race weekend for you, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Because your last race got sort of canceled, and my last race got canceled, but and that's going to be what we talk about today. Is how, I guess, to deal with having a major race canceled, or not even canceled, but beyond your control. You get sick, you get ill, something happens that you can't race. And fortunately for me, and I don't know about you, John, I haven't had too many. Where I literally had signed up and everything was planned, and it got kind of pulled under the rug. How about you? How many times has that happened to you?
Very, very few times. And I think I like how you clarified that. We're not going to talk about race being canceled so much.
Oh, exactly.
Something happens to us and we cancel participating in the event. And that's really only happened a handful of times to me. And it's usually because I've been sick. I can't really think of any other reason other than having some type of flu or something that going on.
Yeah. For me, it's been, obviously my issue that we talked about last week with my urethra. And then last fall, I canceled out of a race because of a hip issue for Ironman Arizona.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I didn't feel nearly as bad about canceling Arizona as I did about canceling going to Finland. Weird, right?
Right.
But anyways, so this is going to happen. It's going to happen to triathletes. We always kind of hope it doesn't happen on your biggest race of the year, but it's something that I think that, we've never really talked about on this podcast. We've talked about, once again, races being canceled, but not us, being too ill or injured to race. But it's going to happen. If you're in this sport long enough, it's going to happen. It's kind of like everything in life. There's going to be big days of your life that you might not be able to participate in because of an illness or an injury. And so that would be really good to talk about this today, and how, you coped with not going to Finland, and how potentially I coped with not going to Finland, and maybe some best practices. So we'll just kick it off with that.
And maybe we set the stage and let everyone know, because maybe not everyone knows, we were both qualified for Lati World Championship 70.3. We were so excited. We got shirts made. We were gathering the troops, everyone from Las Vegas who was going. We were all, talking about what we would do in Lati. And then you ended up having a surgery that prevented you from going. I ended up getting sick the week before traveling, and we couldn't go. And so all of a sudden, a race that we were really, it was marked on the calendar, and a big race to do, and all of a sudden we weren't going. And I like that. And this is what we talked about for tonight, was how do we deal with that? Because it was such a major goal for us, and we weren't able to do it.
Yeah. So the first thing that we want to talk about is that for you and I, and a lot of our listeners, I actually, for every listener, I think, because if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably pretty serious about triathlon, is that understand that we invest a lot into triathlon, both physically and emotionally. And to a certain extent, John, I don't know, I don't consider triathlon a hobby. Right? I consider it a substantial part of my life. A lot of my thought process, my decisions are in and around my life are centered around triathlon.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I'm not doing it, like once again, I'm thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that sometimes people, oh, it's no big deal. It's your hobby. But for serious triathletes, I think it is a little bit more than that. It's our commitment, it's our passion.
Yeah.
And when that is taken away from you, especially with things that are beyond your control, like you getting sick was beyond your control. Me having that surgery, it was not a choice. These were beyond our control. It creates reactions and emotional reactions. And the thing is that everyone's going to react differently to that. You know, you and I spoke before my surgery, and I was devastated. And we spoke after you got sick and you were devastated. And we both used the term depressed. Right? John, you and I have great lives.
Yeah, totally.
We do. Like,
Yeah.
we really do. We get to do this awesome sport. We have great jobs where we get to teach and disseminate our knowledge. We both are in happy marriages. Like life is good.
Yeah.
So then how do we get depressed?
Yeah, no, it's amazing. And, you know, it's funny, we met with the new UNLV Tri Club this past week. And I think the term that we both used to describe our involvement with triathlon is it's a lifestyle. Yeah. And I agree with you. It's a life, it's not a hobby, it's a lifestyle. You know, regular exercise is part of my life. Planning for an event is part of my life. You know, getting on the start line, it's part of my life. And I enjoy it. You know, it's not really a hobby. It is really a lifestyle. And my work reflects, you know, this enjoyment of being in the sport. I'm in the job I'm in now because of the sport, and I'm doing the type of work that I'm doing in, you know, in terms of research, again, because of my interest in the sport. So it's really, it is a lifestyle. And I think what was interesting when we both talked about this a couple weeks ago was it's different if we make a conscious choice to change our lifestyle, to change what our interests are, and say, you know what, okay, I want to do something differently. That's great. You know, that's a lifestyle choice. But in both of our cases, this time it was taken away from us. And we did not have, like you talked about, we did not have control over that. That was not our decision. I mean, you were faced with a potential where you would not be able to race at all anymore. Yeah. And, you know, mine, even though it was sickness, it triggered my rheumatoid arthritis, and that was all flaring up. And I just could not get that under control. And I'm like, wow, am I going to go backwards on this? And I'm going to struggle with getting out to exercise and have that taken away from me. And I think that's what, for me, it leads to more of a depression when it's not my choice to change my lifestyle. And it's now taken from me, or appeared to be taken from me. And that's not easy to deal with.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think that the normal response to being depressed or being angry, I mean, it's funny, I went through all the stages of loss and grief. I really did. Like I was angry. I definitely was. I had anger, especially in the beginning. Then I had some denial. I'm like, oh, well, you know what, maybe I could have this procedure that would stretch my urethra, or there was another procedure where they could actually put a balloon in my urethra, and there was a drug on the balloon, and I would only be out a few days. But these were like short-term fixes and not what I was in my best interest. But I literally, up until like probably 2 weeks before my surgery, I was still like, you know, I might be able to go to Finland. Yeah, right. And fortunately, I had a great couple of doctors, and the first doctor I saw, and I'll give him a plug, Dr. Candela, because he's in the triathlon community. He's done some triathlons, and he's just like, actually, no, you can't go. Yeah, right. Because the downside of like being in Finland, and if you know, basically, it was just not a possibility. And when that happened, it was almost a little bit of, okay, like I moved from the anger and denial to acceptance. Yeah, right. Quite quickly. I still had the depression side, but when it was no longer even an option, actually things became easier. Right. Like probably, and honestly, like, and the second I pressed enter on canceling my flight.
Mm-hmm.
Also, that was like, these were steps that were almost healing steps for me,
Mhm.
as far as like, getting past these things. I don't know if you went through some of these kind of, same stages of grief that I went through.
And somewhat, mine was a little bit more compressed in time because we were going to travel on Sunday, and I got sick on Tuesday, and actually Monday, and tested positive for COVID. And all of a sudden, we're faced with this decision to travel, 10 hours, 12 hours. Well, the trip actually was probably more like 18 hours
Yeah.
to Finland. And now all of a sudden we're faced with, wait, will my symptoms get worse? What happens if we're more sick or I'm more sick and now I'm in Finland? What happens if all of a sudden Laura starts getting testing positive? Is she going to be sick in Finland? Or now we're going to be. And so this was all compressed in really a couple of days that we had to make some decisions on this trip. And we just could not really, with a good mind, say we're going to go get on a plane, knowing that I'm sick and she possibly could be sick, and that just wasn't what we wanted to do. And so it was, yeah. So I think mine was a little bit more compressed. I think for me, it was following the decision was where it started to kick in, and this is where I started to have more of my physical problems from rheumatoid arthritis, as opposed to the COVID stuff. That was all taken care of, but then all of a sudden I had these flare-ups, and it started to linger a lot longer than I had thought. And so mine was quite gradual and coming on.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just don't know. I don't know if I'm going to be able to continue to train. And so then that's where my mindset really started to go south at that point.
The one thing I wanted to add is these feelings that you have and these emotions that you have when this happened are normal, and they're okay.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and we'll go off on a little tangent here. I think that as a society, we're kind of like in this mindset, well, you should never be depressed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know how many students that you work with that have depression and are on drugs to not be depressed.
Yeah, right.
And not that I'm making light of depression in any way, but
Mm-hmm.
having emotions is important.
Mm-hmm.
Like, honestly, when I toe the start line the next time, it's going to feel even better, right? I want to I don't want to have very many lows in my life, but you have to have some lows to feel the highs.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, as I'm coming out of this now, I'm starting to feel that same feeling of like, okay, like my next race, it's going to be great. I'm going to feel that high again. But having the emotions, I think, is okay, as long as they don't spiral, and you don't get into some really negative places. And obviously, when you do, we should change, have this caveat that you go, see a mental health professional if you do, but know that when something like this is taken away from you, that you're going to have some of these emotions, and it's actually okay.
Well, and I think as you go deeper into sport, you also develop some tools that you can help manage it. It's not perfect because, like you said, you're going to have these low points, but I think both of us were able to rely on some tools that we've had in the past or developed in the past to be able to start moving forward. And I love that advice of talking with a professional, getting some more tools, because you don't need to be going. Triathlon needs to be adding value to your life.
Yep.
And if you find that triathlon is distracting from value from your life, it's taking away, then you really need to reassess and figure out if what's going on. And it may just be a mindset that someone may have in terms of how triathlon is influencing life, but it has to really be a positive influence on your life.
So one of the things that I did that really helped me early on, especially once I kind of figured that I wasn't going to go, is I talked to people. I talked to you. I talked to pretty much all the circle of my triathlon people.
Yeah.
And expressed to them what was going on, and not because I wanted them to feel bad for me or like a sob story, but I wanted to hear their opinions and almost like if they'd dealt with it before and how they dealt with it. And several people I talked to, had surgeries and had issues where it stopped them from racing for extended periods of time.
Mhm.
And they gave me some ideas of how they coped with things and how they approached it and where they put their mental energy instead of,
Yeah.
right. And then the interesting thing was, it's actually from a couple of people. They said you need to put your mental energy into getting better.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like all of the stuff and the time and the stuff you do to triathlon now needs to go to get better.
Yeah.
And do what you can do to get better. And
Mhm.
it's hard, like when getting better was laying in bed and
Yeah,
resting.
right.
But that was some advice I took from people was just rest, like
Mhm.
get better and focus on laying in bed and that
Mhm.
and not worry about, oh my gosh, my fitness is slipping away. I'm losing my strength. My legs are skinnier now than they've been. Like I can tell you that, right? But don't focus on that. Focus on that. I need time and I need to prioritize this time just like I would be prioritizing training. So like when a Sunday morning came around and I know that's my day for a long bike ride, instead of that, my priority is actually stay in bed.
Yeah, right.
And that was some really good advice I had
Mhm.
from several people. And because I never actually thought about that, like
Mhm.
in that way, that my job right now is to get better.
Yeah.
And I think that that was really good advice because I know me, I would have probably been trying to do too much too soon.
Mhm. Mhm.
And and I'm still obviously recovering and I'm still
Yeah.
keeping that mantra of like, okay, do what you can do within the realm of getting better first.
Mhm.
And the triathlon stuff will come. John, I've coached so many people that and been an athletic trainer for so many people that have had really long extended issues, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
I rehab people with an ACL and they missed 9 months of their
Yeah.
sport. And during, like they came back.
Yeah.
Like so all of this stuff is possible to
Mhm.
come back. And I think sometimes especially when we are pulled from the sport because of this, we dwell on, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose all my fitness.
Mhm.
I'm losing all my strength and I'm not going to be able to get it back.
Mhm.
But the truth is, as long as it's not like super, super extended, you
Yeah.
can get it back.
Right. No, I love that. And I think the way that I also approached it similar to this was I had to remind myself this idea that triathlon needs to be positive. And if
Yep.
it was distracting from my life and being more of a negative influence, then I'm doing something wrong. And so I just came back to, the phrase that we use all the time with the Tri Club, enjoy the journey. And
Yep.
really, if the journey is not enjoyable, you can't get through these low points because it has to be enjoyable. And so, like you, I was the same thing. I said, okay, even though I'm only running a mile, I got to enjoy that. And I got to look and, at that mile and say, "Look, great, this is great. I'm running a mile. Okay, now I'm running 2 miles. All right. I got to enjoy that process." And I think that mindset, you said it earlier, it translates to a way you approach things in life overall. And so really it's that lifestyle thinking in terms of enjoying the process of training for an event. Okay, all of a sudden I'm not doing an event, but there's other events. I wasn't going to do Cocopelli. Now all of a sudden I'm here in Cocopelli because that other event would have been too much for me to try to recover from and then do this race. Um, so there's always going to be another event, but being mature enough to say I need to enjoy this process because if I can't enjoy it, then why am I even doing it?
One of the ideas that I came across too is looking at your goals and rethinking your goals,
Mhm.
right? So my goal was to go to Finland, and I thought I was in a good trajectory. Early summer, I mean, at Morro Bay, I got fifth. I had a really good race there. I had a really good race at Alcatraz. Like I really felt like, hey, like, this is going to be a really good race for me. And the course set it was perfect for me. Like a
Mhm.
hilly bike. Like I was really obviously excited to go. And then I was like, okay, well, I have to rethink my goals.
Mhm.
Number one, get healthy, but then number two, rethink the triathlon goals. And I really set a goal for myself, uh, a race goal long into the future. Like my race goal now is St. George. That's not till
Mhm.
May.
Yeah.
And as soon as I put paper to pen, I wrote down that is my goal is to race well in St. George, not just race in St. George, race well in St. George. That was also very freeing for me.
Yeah, right.
Right. Originally I was like, you know what, maybe I could do Indian Wells in December. But then I was like, that wouldn't be fair to myself. I still might go race Indian Wells, but it won't be the goal. Right. And I think that helped me. The other thing that I really spent some time thinking about while I was in bed is what are things that I could do better in triathlon and for my body. And one of the two areas that I consistently need to do better of is my strength training and my flexibility. And I'm like, okay, as I'm getting back and I can't put the hours in, I'm going to really put a focus on those two things. Now, obviously, when I was laying in bed, I couldn't do either of those. But you know, I was telling you before we got on the air, like I went to the gym today and did some strength training, very basic stuff, nothing that's going to make me. But I've been to the gym twice. But I hadn't been to the gym in a long time. Like I have my workout stuff here, but not like really heavy weights, other things that probably I need. And I'm like, okay, the goal is going to change for a little while. I'm going to build up strength. I'm going to get a routine going again. And I think that that's important as well, is to maybe change the goal.
Yeah, no, recalibrate totally. And you have to evolve as well. And you know, the goal itself, I mean, we are all doing this for fun. And so I do think it's so smart to be able to be flexible with your goals. Yes, we want to hold on to goals that drive us. And we don't want to just make a goal and then, you know, whimsically, you know, do away with that goal. I don't think that's not where we're going here, but being able to be flexible enough to recognize, okay, I need to recalibrate. And now I need to shift that goal to something else, because having that target, I know I need that target. That gets me off the couch and exercising as well.
And then, you know, finding other things to do, like if you can. Right? So, you know, when I had my hip issue, I spent a lot of time last winter hiking. Yeah. Which I really enjoy hiking. Yeah. Like, it's very fulfilling for me. And, you know, that might be the thing, like, even like when I've had some calf issues in the past, like hiking is a good thing to do. And we've talked a lot about hiking on this podcast, but just finding something else that's positive. I mean, you're the king of water running, deep water running.
Well, that's what I was going to mention is that's what I did this last go around. I said, I'm not able to run as much. I can't tolerate the running right now. So I started doing more running in the water, deep water running, and then I added in shallow water plyometrics, and I was enjoying it. I am enjoying that. I actually, even if I can, you know, regain some on road running consistency, I'm still going to keep the running in the water and the plyometrics. You know, I actually found that doing plyometrics in my backyard pool a great way to end the day. And so I was just going out and doing 5 minutes, 10 minutes of that. And it was just a nice way to, you know, just to wrap up the day and cool off and you know, just get ready for, you know, dinner and then hit the sack. And that's turned into a pretty good routine.
Yeah, I think that, you know, you actually inspired me to do more of that and do more of the deep water running. And then when I originally was getting this diagnosis, running was actually really hard for me. And I was doing the deep water running there. And it's something that I want to get back to as I transition back to running, is doing that. I will add with the deep water running, if you've never done it before, try it, but don't do like 20 minutes. I tried that the first time I deep water ran, I was sore.
Yeah, right.
So slowly transition into it.
No, totally. And I was talking with someone this morning, actually, because I went over and did a session, and I probably will put some videos together on some different ways to do deep water running. In our lab, this is the evidence-based triathlete. That's where I actually started my research, was on deep water running back in the 90s, looking at physiology of running in the water. And that's transitioned into looking at muscle activity or running in the water, and then other forms of body weight support. And so I've been researching this sport, if you will, this exercise for whatever, 30 years at this point. There's different ways to do deep water running. You get resistance in every direction.
Sounds like a podcast opportunity for us to do a deep water running podcast.
Yeah. Well, let's see how tomorrow goes. If it tanks, then I'll say, okay, wait a second, maybe we don't
Yeah,
need.
this is not working out. I
Yeah,
like it.
tomorrow's the test is whether or not my
Yeah.
deep water running routine has actually yielded some benefits. So
Okay, so the next area I want to talk about was actually mental health and
Mhm.
coping strategies. And once again, if you have the means and you know somebody, actually having somebody to talk to, it
Yeah.
can be a sports psychologist, it can be
Yeah.
a psychologist.
Mhm.
It's not a bad idea, especially if you're really struggling, or if you're going to be potentially away for a long time.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
think that's part of it. You know, there are not many sports psychologists in Las Vegas, and there's not many sports psychologists, to be honest, in the country that aren't already affiliated with a team. Most
Mhm.
sports psychologists work at colleges, like with the college teams, or professional sports with the professional teams. And finding a sports psychologist that takes independent patients is actually, it's hard to do. But if you can find somebody, I think that's a really good thing to do. You know, we had Dr. Donahue on,
Yep.
and he gave some really good mental health ideas, things like mindfulness and
Mhm.
visualization and things like that. And those can all be used in this context as well.
Yeah.
And he did give us some resources as well, some online resources for those things. And I think that it is something that you really do need to recognize if you need that help,
Mhm.
and take advantage of it if you can.
No, I love that. And you talked earlier about this in terms of talking with other people. The wonderful thing is we've got a great community, and sometimes you need to lean on that community for some help. And I think that's so important to be able to reach out to others and lean on them, because you especially have helped so many people, but then it's also okay to ask for help. And I think in addition to the mental skills for a person, though, the other place, and we also had uh, Dr. Kate Hertland on talking about relationships, because this is also a really important point when you're struggling with these issues and all of a sudden you can't do what you want to be able to do. Sometimes that bleeds off in a real negative way in a relationship. And I think that's the other part to really, put your lens on and make sure that your relationships are healthy at that point. And hopefully that helps pull things out in the right direction as well.
It was interesting. I came across this. It was, as I was researching this today, I came across this article, and it wasn't a scientific article, but it was like, when you're injured, your spouse might be very happy
Mhm.
because you're not off on that 4-hour bike ride, and you're not,
That's great.
like
That's right.
you're back at the house, and they may be missing you, and they could secretly actually be happy that you're not training, and that's a weird relationship
Mhm.
dynamic.
Mhm.
So once again, yes,
Yeah.
maybe this even needs to have like some family counseling or something like
Mhm.
that. And we did talk about the relationship counseling
Yeah.
along with this. And then, in my case, I mean, my wife she's awesome, but she had to take care of me for like
Mhm.
a couple of weeks. Like,
Yeah.
she was like a rock star with it, but man, it was a burden on her.
Yeah.
And she's, don't get me wrong, like she says, and she's right here over there. She said she's happy to do it,
Yeah.
but I was feeling guilty,
Mhm.
right? Because like I'm taking away from her life,
Mhm.
and those are, once again, these are mental health things
Yeah.
that you need to, no, you don't need to, but you may have to deal with.
Mhm. No, you're putting a demand on someone else, and that's not what you try to do in the first place. And now all of a sudden that can add stress to everyone that way. And so yeah, I think in these periods where we are struggling with these adjustments, pay attention to the relationship, because that at the end of the day, the relationship is more important than other getting to a start line of a race, if you will. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Um, so the next area is, what can you still do? So I can tell you, like, when I had my hip issues last year, one of the things that I really liked doing was coming to the tri club races and volunteering,
mhm.
and even going to the other local races
Yep.
and helping out. And that was really good for me.
Mhm.
Just still be around,
Yeah.
and yeah, you sometimes feel a little bit envious of people when they're racing and you're not racing, but
Mhm.
you're still participating in some way.
Mhm.
And I think like volunteering at events is a good way to do that, because we need volunteers at the races. They don't run without volunteers they can't run without volunteers. So that's one area that I think is useful. And I know, John, you volunteered a ton, and you do it all the time. But it's if you can't do it, don't just stay home and pout. Like, get out to the lake or get out somewhere and do what you can.
No, I love that advice, because that's also a way to learn something more about racing and training, where you're standing there watching what other people are doing, and you pick up these little tips and tricks that they're doing. Then you say, oh, maybe I need to try it that way. And so, yeah, volunteering certainly helps that way. But then just being a supporter, and when, Lottie didn't happen for us, I tried to shift and say, look, I'm just going to continue to support everyone who's going, and I'm going to, enjoy the race through them. Yes, I would have loved to have suffered with the men on the rain day and how cold it was. That would have been so much fun to have stories out of that. And the women, boy, one athlete had a broken bike, one had a broken bone. All these, challenges that they were dealing with, but living through them and enjoying, their race in that respect of seeing them all doing it. I think that, being able to shift that focus actually helps strengthen us as athletes as well. Because we don't always need to be towing the start line to enjoy the sport.
I was pretty fortunate. I mean, I was coaching 4 athletes that were in Finland. And I mean, we had conversations when they're in Finland, we had it before they were in Finland. And there's Cosmo. And that helped me, but also in some ways hurt me.
Yeah.
Because I was envious. And it's an interesting, like, I still have not watched the professional race on TV. And the only people I tracked were either very close friends or people I coached. And I had a hard time with it. And but it did help me, like, to have the conversations with them did help me. But it was weird. Like, I almost, and I don't know if I've told this with anyone before, I kind of lost being a fan of triathlon for about a month.
Yeah, right.
And I'm kind of like starting to get back into being a fan of triathlon again. And maybe it's that feeling of having something pulled from you, and I don't know, because like, for sure I would have watched that on TV. I didn't even watch the Nice race last week. I'm still in my back of my mind, I'm going to watch them, because I don't even know who won, because I've been trying not to see who won. But yeah, it's it's weird how these things, some people, like, they love it, like they, or they would have just watched every bit of triathlon they could. But for me, it's like, it's hard.
Yeah, no, and it's understandable. I mean, it's not, it's something that was on the brink of not being part of your lifestyle anymore. And so I think the mindset is to say, okay, well, I really need to shift. I need to pivot. And I think that pivot, in your case, it took you away from even watching the sport, because you were really on the precipice of some potential major changes to your lifestyle. I think for me, it was a little easier because, well, I don't know if it was easier. It was easy dealing with my RA and coming back. I'm like, oh, here we go again. Is that going to kick me out of the sport? But I don't think it was as dramatic as yours was, or as and so I was able to still stay connected that way. But that, I think there's, this is a spectrum of issues to deal with and how to go about it.
So let's move forward to getting back. So like the road to recovery. And obviously, like, being sick or like having a surgery like I did, it might be a little bit different than, a lot of the issues like we're talking about are things that most of the time in triathlon, it's a musculoskeletal injury, right? It's my plantar fascia, it's my Achilles, it's my knee, it's my hip, or whatever. I want to, really think about when you're recovering. We talked about focusing on the recovery, but also focusing on, like, in my opinion, and working with lots of athletes and athletic training in particular, is having realistic timelines and not rushing back. The research is pretty good on this. Like, if you come back from an injury too soon, you're going to get hurt again. And it might not be the same injury, but it'll be something else.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, oh, your calves hurt. Next thing you know, your hips hurt. Next thing you know, like, and
Yeah.
you get into this cycle. And I get it. Like, you feel better and you want to get back quicker and you want to do that next hard interval session or whatever. But it's almost always better to go slower.
No, totally.
And, you know, once again, I'm trying really hard to live this right now.
Mm-hmm.
And like last night, for example, I went swimming last night, and I told myself when I got to the pool, 1500, that's
Mhm.
all you're doing. And, you know, the rest of everyone else was, when I stopped, they were still going.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, that's it. And I purposely, as soon as I finished 1500, hit my watch that said stop.
Yeah, right.
Because then I'm not going to do it, because it's not, you know, it's not
Mm-hmm.
going to be, it's not going
Yep.
to count. And, you know, having a good plan, and this could be working with somebody. Maybe it's working with a coach that has experience in bringing people back from injury.
Mm-hmm.
And not all coaches do. Like,
No.
some coaches do, some don't. And someone that really understands what you're trying to do. Because I got to be honest with you, in the world of physical therapy and athletic training and medicine, a lot of the professionals don't understand what we do as triathletes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, oh, you want to ride your bike? Oh, okay, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And because you ask them in a way, is it okay if I ride my bike? And they're gonna be, oh yeah, you can go for a bike ride, because they may have a bike and they go for like a half-hour spin around their blocks,
Right.
and it's good.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean 4 hours crushing it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And it's the same in, you know, once again, in physical therapy, and whoever you're dealing with, is if they haven't worked with triathletes at that level and been successful at doing it and returning them, you have to find that and you may not know, you need to find people and professionals that can help you do that.
Mm-hmm.
Because it doesn't come naturally. Like, you start to feel better, it's like, okay, it's time to go.
Right, right.
And it's not always so simple.
Well, you were spot on. It has to be easy, and the road to recovery has to be a long road. You have to play the long game. And I think it is hard for someone with an athletic mindset to take it easy. And because, like you said, if you feel good, you're like, oh, well, maybe I'll go a little bit longer, maybe I'll go a little bit harder. But being disciplined and saying, and this is my life. I'm gonna train as hard as I can today so I can train again tomorrow. And sometimes today isn't very hard then, because I know if I go too hard, I'm going to have a hard time getting up and training the next day. I think this is something that is really a chance to work on. A lot of people can work on this part where we upload to Strava, we upload to Training Peaks, we share our data, and we always want to share a good impression. Oh, I'm doing a hard workout, I'm doing this, you know, I'm holding this pace. I think people will be more successful if they can't be consistent, because they're uploading to Strava. Don't upload to Strava. But I think really a great sign of a maturity of a triathlete is to be able to upload to Strava your slow workouts.
Yep.
And not feel bad, and not say, oh, I got an ego. I don't want anyone to see. I mean, right now, my runs, I'm like running 2 miles in like 22 minutes. I'm like, but fortunately, I'm at a spot where I don't care. I don't care if people see it or not. And I'm able to upload that. And I don't mean to boast about that, but I think that's that's a victory in one sense, that you can still, do your workouts, be consistent, and not worry about what others are going to think about what pace you're holding, how far you're going, because your battle is your battle. And I don't mean you, but I mean everyone, listen to this, that it's their battle, it's their challenges. And if it's too hard to share, then don't share the information. But I think it's really a big sign of success if you can share your slow workouts and then be okay with that. Because I think that actually, promotes you being able to train easier. And that easy training is really what it takes to get recovered from almost any injury or health issue.
Yeah. And John, the funny part is, I mean, you think about it, you're doing 2 miles in 22 minutes. You're still, for your age, you're probably still in the top 1%.
Right.
But the problem is that we always start comparing ourselves to our old self
Oh, totally. Yeah.
or to our colleagues or our friends,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Instead of celebrating that you
Mhm.
can run 2 miles in 22
That's
minutes,
right. Right.
which you should be celebrating,
Yep.
right?
Mhm.
You look at that as a negative, and
Mhm.
it's really easy to do. Like, you know, even like last night, like swim 1500. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm such a failure.
Yeah. 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 Right. Right.
Like the
No.
percentage of people that can actually go and swim 1500,
Yeah.
like at my age, it's like I'm a 1%er.
It's
Just to be able
fantastic.
to do it, not even to do it like on the, on a certain pace. I'm just saying just to be able to go swim it.
Yeah.
We had this meeting with the Tri Club people, UNLV. I can guarantee out of all those 18 to 22-year-olds that less than half could go swim 1500,
Yeah. Right. Right.
right? And I'm 51 and I can go
Yeah.
like as I'm returning to the pool.
Hmm.
And like seriously, like when we were driving home last night, I had a smile on my face because I'm like, man, I swam 1500.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Right. Right. Right.
it's an accomplishment. Like to go from laying in bed,
Yeah.
like dreaming about swimming 1500 to actually do it. And
Hmm.
it's okay. And I'm proud to post it,
Yep. Yep.
like that. And it's going to be like, I know when I get back to running, because I have not ran in 8 weeks.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I know it's going to be horrible,
Yep.
but I'm going to post it.
Yeah. Right. Right.
Because I want,
And I think that's good therapy because it is, we're human and we're all struggling with something, and we're all in different parts of our training journey, our triathlon journey, and but enjoy the
and if you, yeah,
process.
and I love the fact you said, if you, what for you, you might need to not post it.
Yeah,
And
right,
also,
right.
if you have a Strava account, you
Mhm.
can easily set it to private.
Yep.
And you can set it private for individual workouts.
Yep.
You don't have to post everything if you
Oh,
don't want.
and I agree with that. And I think if someone makes the mistake of training harder and harder because they're going to post it, stop posting it. And
Exactly.
you can get to a point where you can post it and not care.
Yeah.
And then that's just a different way to approach it. But yeah, if it sets you back and you're trying to push yourself because you're going to post on Strava, then or whatever program,
Yeah, don't do it.
don't. You need to be patient with recovery. I mean,
Yeah.
you and I have both seen so many people try to come back from an injury and they try to rush it back, and it maybe you can get something done in a short term, but long term you can't maintain that type of lifestyle.
The other thing that I wanted to add into this is, and it's something I'm trying to focus on right now as well, is as we talk about the strength training, but so I historically have had shoulder issues, swimming. And so I've been doing a shoulder rehab program, and it's lightweight, but I'm doing it, and I'm doing it like every other day,
That's
and
great.
I'm not injured.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm like, this is a great opportunity for me to hopefully make my shoulders more robust.
Yeah.
So when I do get back to doing the 3,000 and 3,500 and hopefully 4,000 yard sessions, that I'm being smart. I'm not even being smart about it, but I'm more robust.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I also look at injury to somewhere or an illness somehow that it gives you a chance to maybe address
Mhm.
another lingering issue.
Yeah. Right.
And one of the other things I was reading about was, it was saying maybe this is your chance to dial in your nutrition even further.
Mhm. Mhm.
And learn about like some meal prep stuff, or
Yeah.
like, because we always talk about, you and I spend a lot of time talking about nutrition.
Mhm.
And sometimes when you're training 20 hours a week and have a full-time job and all these other
Yeah.
commitments, nutrition kind of falls away. So maybe, they said like learn a few new healthy recipes
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
you feel really comfortable with, and so just taking that mindset and looking at it as positive, like what can you do to build yourself
Mhm.
to be a better triathlete down the road?
Yeah.
Read articles about triathlon, about aerodynamics, about
Mhm.
tires, about whatever that is. Oh, John, I gotta tell you, I have spent zero money on bike stuff in the last. My wife's like, man, like we're doing really well with our finances the last couple of months. Like, yeah, I'm not spending any money.
Yeah. Right.
I'm just like, money's just always going out. Like, go because we're not traveling.
Yeah.
I'm not like buying tires and tubes.
Mhm.
Oh, the newest this, and I'm
No.
I've not bought any running shoes.
No.
She's like,
Mm.
man, we're doing really well these last couple of months. I'm like, oh yeah, well, that's because of me.
Oh, that's funny. No, but you're right, because when you're training less and you're recovered, or you're recovering, or you're starting back, you're going to be putting in less hours, and so you have more time in the day to do something else. And I think this was something that you and I talked about, and it's probably a, again, this is one of those mental skills of trying to work through it. Is there's almost a fear that if I'm not training and I'm starting to fill that time with something else, that
Yep.
maybe it's going to be harder to come back and train. And I think, for me, when I was even recovering, I was still trying to say, okay, this is my time block where I'd be running. I'm not going to run right now, but this is my time block. So I was still going through the mental practice of saying that's my lifestyle, is to, run at this time, bike at this time, swim at this time. And
Yeah.
but that is a fear that, you sit there and you're like, well, if I start filling my time with something else, I can't do this something else and get back to training as well.
Yeah. You can always clean your garage.
Always what?
Clean your garage.
Oh, yeah. Actually, I
I
do.
keep telling my garage is a mess, and like obviously I couldn't do much. And I was like, okay, maybe next week or maybe this weekend.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
time.
yeah.
It's starting to get a little cooler out, even though I have air conditioning in my
No,
garage.
I
But
know. Yeah.
it's time to actually clean my garage. It's a little funny story. So I'm actually building a bike right now.
Okay.
So during my, as soon as I got basically out of bed, and I started building a bike. So I'm building a bike for a friend of mine.
Oh, nice.
So she bought the same exact bike as mine.
Okay.
And I'm like, well, if you buy it, I'll build it for you.
Okay.
And so that's been good. It's like, like I'm in the garage.
Yep.
It's not my bike. It's like, I have nothing needs done on my
Right.
bike. It's
Right.
it's a perfect condition. But I'm like, okay, like I'm gonna build a bike. And so
Mhm.
that's been a good little project. And I know the nice thing about that project, it ends.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like that was the other things, like you were talking about, like if you fill up your life with something and then that becomes the thing, like
Yeah.
maybe find a project that's gonna end. Like cleaning your garage, like that's gonna end. It's gonna be clean and you can move on.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's a little bit of advice.
Hmm. My wife would love to hear that, but
Oh, hey, John, you hurt your shoulder. Time to clean the garage.
oh man, yeah. Oh, that's
So-
good. Well, it is, just on this recovery, it is just taking time. And
Yeah.
so you
The
have
other
one
thing
more point though.
Well, no, I was going to add even another project I did last year when I hurt my hip and I couldn't race in Arizona. Is I consider that the end of the season, and and then the season came faster than I wanted. And one of the things I always do at the end of the season is dismantle my bike, clean the whole thing, and rebuild it.
Yeah.
And that's another thing you can do, right? Is
Mhm.
once again, it's going to come to the end.
Yeah.
It's something that you should do. I tell people they should do it every year. Is literally take every bolt, every screw, everything all apart, clean it all,
Mhm.
assess it, make sure nothing's rusted or whatever, and then rebuild it. If you have the ability and you have the garage and you have
Mhm.
you have the
Mhm.
tools to do it.
Yeah.
I even contend if you don't have the tools to do it, get the tools, do it. Because when you
Mhm.
travel and
Yeah.
something goes wrong with your bike and you
That's
can
it.
fix it yourself.
Mm-hmm. It's a sense of pride too. So
Exactly. That was it for me. What
Okay.
else? Do you have anything else?
No, we're gonna go sit outside. It's nice and cool up here now, and go through my mindset in terms of what I'm gonna try to accomplish tomorrow.
What's the start time tomorrow for you?
What start time 7:30 this time, so 6:30 Vegas
All
time.
right. That's
Yeah.
good. That's good.
Yeah.
So you'll be you're staying tomorrow night as well, right? So you'll be
What's that?
you'll be hanging out afterwards.
Yeah, I'm gonna stay over through Sunday, so I'll go to the other side of the lake and camp out over there. And it's so nice to be able to come up here and ride somewhere different. And there's some nice rides to do, and I'll swim in the lake and do that. So
Perfect. And then so for our fans that are up there, make sure you bring a Sharpie and John will sign your jersey for you tomorrow if you want.
yeah, right.
Which is always it's always a nice thing when you get an autograph from either John or
Oh
myself.
yeah, right. I don't think so.
Awesome. All right, hey John, good luck tomorrow. Have
Yeah,
fun.
thanks. Yeah.
I know there's a lot of people from the Tri Club up there.
Yep.
Yeah. One of my favorite race venues. So
Yeah.
I hope you have a great day.
It'll be fun. Yeah, thanks a lot, and look forward to when we're on the start line together. That'll be good.
Exactly. It won't be long.
Okay. Talk
Okay.
soon. Have a good weekend.
Okay. All right, bye.
Bye.